Welcome to Smart in the City, the Babel podcast where we bring together top actors in the smart city arena, sparking dialogues and interactions around the stakeholders and themes most prevalent for today's citizens and tomorrow's generations. I am your host, Tamlin Shimizu, and I hope you will enjoy this episode and gain knowledge and connections to accelerate the change for a better urban life. Smart in the City is brought to you by Babel Smart Cities. We enable processes from research and strategy development to co-creation and implementation. To learn more about us, please visit the Babel platform at babel-smartcities.eu. So this year we are again live in Madrid, partnering with the third edition of the Global Mobility Call to bring you exciting episodes with some of the top international speakers that we also had the pleasure of inviting to the Global Mobility Call this year. Thanks again to the Global Mobility Call for the partnership. So now we are, of course, talking mobility during these episodes, but thinking holistically about mobility and how it intersects with innovation and with the most crucial topics facing cities today. I have a fantastic guest with me today who I've actually been waiting a little bit of time to get onto the podcast. So I'm really happy to have him here and have this opportunity to speak to him. He's not only in his city to make it more innovative, but building an ecosystem of partners in the Netherlands to accelerate innovation and to make innovation more scalable. So with me today, without further ado, it's Frans Jorna. He's the Chief Innovation and Information Officer at the City of Apeldoorn, Netherlands, and board member of the Dutch Metropolitan Innovations Ecosystem. Welcome, Frans.
Thank you, Tamlin. What a pleasure to be here.
What a pleasure to have you here. So really excited to, we were talking a little bit before this in the speaker's lounge as well. And I think I haven't gotten the full picture yet of the scope of your work. So I'm really excited now we get to sit down and dedicate this time to learning about it. Before we get started, I like to start off with a little bit of a teaser to get us warmed up. So the teaser that I have for you today is if you had to describe Apeldoorn's innovation strategy with 3 emojis, which would they be?
Oh, asking an emojis question to a boomer. Okay.
I know you still know what they are. So
I think my daughters are going to have a laugh at this.
It can't just be the 2 dots with the smiley, you know?
Yeah. Thank you. I've done my homework.
Yeah.
The first emoji would be such a beautiful round face with colorful red
and the
cheeks, the blush. Because that is what Apeldoorn is, a sweet city where people care for each other, social ties matter. So that would be the first emoji. The second one, and then of course I looked up my emojis. There's this beautiful emoji with a face in the clouds. Apeldoorn is still a hidden treasure. Many people, when I say I'm working in Apeldoorn, in the Netherlands, say, but Apeldoorn, leading innovation. Why? Well, we come to that in this conversation, and it has its downsides because you're not normally looked at, but it also has its great upsides because we had the time to make sure that we got it right, and I think we got it right. So that's the second emoji. And the third one is just a big smiling face. Because innovation, for a large part, comes when people have fun together. When there's this zing in their relationship, in the work, where flow originates. So these 3.
You did pretty good for a boomer, right? So there you go. Wonderful selections of emojis. Now, I want to learn a little bit more about you, and also the listeners like to know a little bit about who's speaking, who's the voice behind the microphone. So tell me about yourself. Tell me about your background. What led you to your role today? Tell me all about it.
Well, there's a couple of defining moments. I studied political science and public administration out of idealism, wanting to change the world, coming from a Catholic background where uncles and sisters did work with the poor, gypsies, that line of work. And so wanting to work with people. deprived communities, so to speak. So I did that. My education somehow in the middle turned into a management curriculum, which I didn't like. And when I graduated, so what have I learned? Some professor said, well, if you want to learn your trade, there's a way to that. So write your dissertation. So I did that. And then somehow got into the world of how digitalisation affects the way we run our programs in our societies. And I was fascinated because on the one hand, I saw the prospect of what data could do, but I also saw many instances of where data completely derailed programs, organizations, led to administrative tragedies. And that's just been a fascination for all my life. How does digitalization affect the life of people? And the life of people and the life of people working in our organizations. So that's one. Defining moment. Two is 10 years after having handed in my dissertation, someone well-known Dutch architect cooked, and 11 o'clock said, so have you eaten well? Was it nice dinner? Then I have a question for you. When are you finally going to do what you always speak about? What she meant is, you got it figured out. But talking about it is something else than really making it. So she invited me to step into the world of executives. In my case, having studied public administration, political science, I just loved the public world. So that became city life, city administration. First time temporary role, then second time director smart city at City of Almere, New Amsterdam, as I sometimes jokingly call it. And now in the past few years, first part of the director's team in Apeldoorn. Until a year ago, I said, as a director of operations, if tomorrow is as today, then we're doing fine. As CIO, the transformation that we are going to have to go through, if tomorrow is as today, we have a huge problem. So I focused my work on innovation, on the transformation of the organization, on handling the social issues that are associated with digital transformation. And that's what I've been doing the past year.
Really interesting. Thanks for walking us through that. I want to first touch on this Dutch Metropolitan Innovations Ecosystem that we've mentioned. It's a collaboration between cities, data business partners, and others, right? National ministries, companies. It's a big collaboration. So can you walk us through that partnership? How was it formed and what is the goal?
It was formed on the basis of failure.
Love it.
Yeah. So failure, all mid-sized Dutch cities, we all say that we're very, very different, but really we're not. So we tackle the same problems. And then in our strive to solve these issues, go at it alone. And the companies we work with are not only working for us, are not only being tended by us, they're also being tended by colleague cities. And more I saw that efforts to free data, efforts to install data platforms to really handle social issues were just stopped because it was a one place, one time, one-stop solution. 3 years ago, the mid-sized cities published a report. So how are we handling digital transformation? And the conclusion was about 1,000 pilots, and only a small fraction of these are actually scalable.
Yeah.
If we want to scale, if we want to make an impact, and we should make an impact, we should come together. We should come together as cities to develop common challenges, a common architecture, and we should invite companies to not offer their solutions for the same money at different places, but to cooperate as well, to comply to standards or to help us create standards that we then follow. And that led to the formation of a mid-sized city group focused on first smart cities and then sustainable urbanization and the mobility transition. Ministry of Infrastructure saw the value of that group because they saw that many of the efforts, for instance, to create mobility hubs led to nothing because every city was handling it in its own way. And competition among companies led to a lack of scalability. So they invited us to do a bid together with them, with the national government, for a growth fund stipendium of about 85 million. And we supported that bid. We drafted our challenges, including this is what we would like to handle by way of innovation assignments. And 2 years ago, the Growth Fund contribution finally came through. And now we're in the middle of building this ecosystem. So some seven cooperating cities on realization coordination, 13 other cities who have their own challenges. All in all now some 80 companies, 3 national ministries, and one architecture effort at one open urban platform and one common data space. That's what we're building it now.
It's exciting to hear about. Like, I'm really excited about it when you talk about it because I love these type of initiatives that are really bringing together all the stakeholders that are needed in urban innovation. What question I have, though, is when you're bringing so many different players to the table, does it not get bureaucratic? Does it not get slow? How do you keep the movement going and accelerate it?
I'm not. The word bureaucratic is not what came to mind. What can become problematic is that the speed with which this ecosystem is growing is now increasing so much that it stands in the way of focus on realization. If we don't get the groundwork done within these 3 or 4 years, and let ourselves be distracted by many apps and use cases that different parties want to launch, we're getting nowhere. 7 cities, 13 companies cooperating. That's basically the core work that I focus on. Cooperating during 4 years is in itself not bureaucratic. What I arrive at is all sorts of bureaucratic hurdles. For instance, how do you jointly tender as 7 cities, 13 companies? But that's the essence of innovation. Sometimes innovation is just sorting out the mess, finding a way how to handle it, and then replicating it. One guy who handles all of the innovation assignments with these companies. He's basically the broker in between these 7 cities and 13 companies. And that was pretty complex. What type of contract do you use? A kind of remuneration scheme. But having done that, we've now set and created a norm that can be followed for each of the new colleagues that follows after him. So innovation is sometimes messy. It's cutting through red tape to be able to avoid it next time.
Absolutely. Can you give some concrete projects or tangible examples from either Apeldoorn or the wider Dutch Metropolitan Innovations Ecosystem?
Yeah, just a couple of examples. So there are projects like how do we create bike lanes, bike highways through our cities and incentivize our citizens to use them, leave their cars at home. How do we lower the number of cars that people have in our inner cities from 1.2 per household to, in the end, 0.6 or even 0.3? Normally, city councils will be wary. The idea of cars disappearing, they can simply not picture that will actually work. Having a digital twin that allows you to model and even play with different variables, your building program onto your city infrastructure, and then take them along to show, yes, this can be done. Or, as we found out. Taking our building program and then finding out that this building program, if carried out in this way, leads to a city standstill in one part of the inner city of Apeldoorn sometime in 2026, allows us to use data to come up with smarter urbanization plans, allows us to find out how to what mix we should apply in terms of modalities in these parking hubs, multimodal hubs. Even allows us to find out what information citizens need to take their bike instead of their car.
Yeah, really interesting. I heard you talking earlier about this data platform that is used by all partners to share data. Let's get into it a bit more because I think our listeners would love to know more about that.
Yeah.
What is that? How are you doing it?
Basically, a data platform is one of the most mystical terms there is.
True.
Consists of various components. Technically, all of the components are here. What is hard is to bring them together in a way that makes sure that the open urban platform can actually be sustained and be further developed. You need to free the data. You need to add visualization layers. You need a transaction and payment scheme in such a way that data can be validated, can be, for a first print, be purchased. And then if the application works, you need a mechanism where the data is actually offered each time that the API is. So there are 13 companies, each developing their own component of this data platform. In the meanwhile, most of these cities have their own data platforms. We all have Azure data platforms these days. What we are looking at is basically built a central node between all of these open urban data platforms that these cities have, allow companies to do what they're best at, focus on their component, and make sure that the requirements for each of these companies' components that they need from the others are there. So some focus on the freeing of data, other focus on purchasing schemes, other focus on pure applications like how do I add a satellite view of cities and air quality to data platforms. So this is the way that we approach it.
What are the biggest challenges that you're coming across with that?
The biggest challenge is basically business models. So innovation sounds fun, and these companies are partners in an ecosystem, but they are also always competitors to a certain extent. So making competition creative and getting them together in a consortium where they actually focus on what they're good at, but then allow the others to do what they're good at, and then seeing that if they really follow the schools, this will have consequences for the business model that they've operated on to this date. So the business model of each of these companies is slowly changing, and I see more and more of these businesses sort of setting these DMI activities apart in a spin-off as new business, being their business line in 4 years' time, and hiving it off from their old business lines, which they know will, in the end, to a certain extent, disappear if the DMI is really functional.
Yeah, really, really interesting project initiative. I'm fascinated to see how competitors can work more closely together on this. So I'm really excited to follow it in the future. So when we talk about scaling innovation, that's the goal, right? But cities sometimes have unique contexts. Maybe not so much in the Netherlands. You find them more uniform. I'm not sure. But how do you ensure that scalable solutions remain adaptable and effective in different urban environments?
keep the technological basis simple and standardized. Socially, we are very different. So even Apeldoorn is a very different city from the city of Helmond in the south that we cooperate with, or the city of Dordrecht. Our history is different. The way that people relate to each other is different. So yes, I mean
there are differences.
There are differences, but you do not need to take these differences into account when developing the technology. Make sure that in the way that technology is used, that there you profit to maximum extent of your differences.
Yeah, interesting. So you think that the technology, if we just simplify it, then it can be more adaptable across different contexts?
Yeah, that's the only way. So simplify it to such an extent that it can be validated, that it can be understood. The more complex you make it, also the more wary people will be of what it is and how it actually works.
How do you see that representing these days in the space of AI?
That's an interesting question. One, my main concern with AI and our main concern with the digital transformation is the effect it has on our energy consumption and the way we live on this planet. What I have seen AI doing is increase sometimes with a 8-fold factor the energy footprint of an average city. Is it AI that is the problem? No, it's not AI. It's the fact that we use AI and we maintain all of the other old ways. And then it's an add-on. AI can help us to structure our not so structured data legacy. Data legacy.
I thought you were going to say our own brains.
AI can offer us a very, very good mirror of what it is that we say we want. Only then it gets interesting. But AI is what it is. It's language models. It's our preferences to the perfection represented in images, in music, in film. And I'd like to match AI. My wife had to laugh when I said this. AI with natural intelligence. So we need both.
Yeah.
And as long as our natural or emotional intelligence or relational intelligence that we have increases with the same speed, there is no problem in applying AI. But it really needs dialogue. It needs a context of what is it that I'm doing and what are my values? Well, that's the context in which I am discussing with my city councillors and in my organization about the applications of AI, the very clear benefits, and also the issues that we need to tackle.
Really interesting. Sorry, that went a little bit off script, but I was really interested to hear on what your thoughts were there. I want to talk a little bit more about Apeldoorn. Can you talk a bit more about a central challenge that is facing the city and how you plan to address it? And if you feel like there are any tools that are kind of missing within that plan?
When you asked me this question before the interview, I thought of Major Pete Buttigieg. I never know.
Buttigieg.
Yeah, Buttigieg. Thank you. Basically, Apeldoorn was created in the course of the past 200 years with an infrastructure, not so densely populated neighborhoods, and within the city structure, the city has grown. Now, all of a sudden, with climate change in the West, we see that we need to move from the west of the country, Netherlands, to the east, that urbanisation in the course of this century will focus on East Netherlands. That it means that we need to prepare ourselves for real urbanification. Our infrastructure is not designed for that. Already now I see that we are end of life. So basically what we are now in is a complete overhaul of our inner city, of the way the inner city is wired to the national infrastructure of the inner city in terms of shopping streets are now being turned into a park. And there will still be shops, but we need to battle the heat in the summer. And Apeldoorn is located on the edge of old glacier hills, which means that the soil is very, very susceptible to verification. So taking care of the soil, making sure that we retain the water. We're right in the middle of this overhaul. And that's a big challenge. And we did that with ways which were not informed by data, let alone by AI. And by having much more informed decisions. We hope to engage the city council, but also we have to engage with our citizens to come up with much better schemes, because at the end of the day, what Apeldoorn is about is quality of living, is strong social networks, and that's what we want to retain in the upcoming 20 years.
Yeah, with that, do you feel like you're missing a tool or missing something to make that happen? What is the bottleneck?
My main tool now is the energy transition. Just a nice report 2 days ago. Dutch cities will suffer from blackouts from 2027 onwards because our energy infrastructure is not able to cope.
That's soon.
Yeah, that's soon. So it's not, it's today. Yeah, right. We can only manage this process of urbanification, where we add some for 30,000 people, new households within the existing city. If we somehow manage the enormous energy demand that the digital transformation brings with it, and we now have central production, decentralized consumption. Big plants burning coal, then we added windmills, then we added solar, but the net is still balanced in a very centralist way. We're not fit for this decentralized energy grid. We do not have ways to balance energy. We do not have good ways to store energy for a longer period. For the first time in history, luckily enough, I think last year, we produced more sustainable energy than we produced fossil energy. But on sunny days or windy days, most of the energy does not flow into the grid because the grid can't sustain it. This is my missing ingredient. And this is where I'd love for companies to step up to the plate. And when I informed within the DMI ecosystem of which party was able to take on this challenge, I found only 1, 2, 3 companies having part of the solution. So we're an ecosystem that has just been born and is in some ways flawed. And I hope that this is one part where new parties will join or we join forces with other ecosystems across Europe. That's why I'm in Spain.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we should have a conversation also with this afterwards. It sparks also some ideas with, our network and what we do as Babel as well. So now I come to the part where I ask you, did we miss anything? It's our open floor. So did we not talk about something that you think, oh my gosh, we need to talk about that? That's very crucial for our listeners to know about your work, about wider work, thought that you have, that you really want to get out there.
I'm happy that we talked about the energy transition. Because
I didn't expect it to go in that way.
No. That's what I saw in your eyes.
Yeah.
What I find fascinating is we are most often talking about technological innovation, but this whole part of social innovation, maybe it's just me, but I still feel badly equipped in that domain. So we need to become much better at our innovation processes, innovation techniques. We need to become really better, not just in innovating, but also in stopping the things that block our progress. So innovation, for a large part, is change management. So it's one thing to have an effective innovation. It's another thing to apply this innovation and bring change. And most systems, including cities, are sometimes very resistant to change. The initial response will be, no, I want things to stay the way they are. Well, the bad news, that's impossible. So we need good change managers.
There's multiple things that are forcing our hand in that direction, and we can either decide to now change and adapt and innovate, or we can decide to do things the same way and then drown like in our own issues. So absolutely.
And then a third issue, we haven't talked security, and it's interesting. It's not been on our lips, on the forefront of our lips in the past 2 days here. But security is a true issue. So when I started as a CIO, yes, security was an issue. But if I look at the number of threats that my municipal organization gets, it's staggering how quickly the threats and the threat level has grown. Interstatal. I would never have imagined 10 years ago that I, in a conversation on digital transformation, would mention interstatal terrorism as something to prepare ourselves for. If we are also reliant on data flowing in not programmable ways, how do we prepare for blackouts? How do we secure? So security, resilience. Sometimes people say, I need zero trust. I want to be absolutely sure. I don't know if the way forward is not trusting each other. So security is something that many of you are going to take up. A couple of these challenges is something that I would really like to dive in. Security in a federated world.
Very interesting topics to bring. We could talk about that for a long time. Unfortunately, we're almost out of time, but fortunately, that means that we're moving to our segment. And the segment that I chose for you today is my favorite segment. People are probably tired of me saying this, but it's a roll with the punches.
Roll with the punches. Answer this or that questions quickly and with your first instincts.
So you just answer as quick as possible. We go through all the questions, and at the end, if you want to explain any of your answers, you can do so. Because they're meant to be very tricky for you to choose which one you like.
Okay.
But don't worry, it's fun. Bring it on. I like the attitude. Okay. Some less tricky than others, I'm sure. So, ready?
Yeah.
Tea or coffee?
Tea.
Shared e-bikes or autonomous shuttles?
Shared e-bikes.
Predictive analytics or real-time dashboards?
Oh, real-time dashboards.
AI-driven decision-making or human-centric approaches?
Human-centric, that's easy.
Stricter data regulations or self-regulated innovations?
Self-regulated innovations.
Stroopwafel or bitterballen?
Stroopwafel.
Very good. Working with startups or working with established corporations?
Startups.
Digital twins or integrated GIS systems?
I would go for digital twinning.
Apeldoorn or Madrid?
I love Apeldoorn.
Yeah.
But that's the reason why I'm here. Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. Good. That's all. Do you want to explain any of your answers? Were there some tough ones?
I was triggered by the integrated GIS systems.
Why did that trigger you?
There's a couple of layers in there. I like technology must be transparent, but you mustn't bother a user by the way that things are structured. So integration within the design is something that I love. It also often sort of takes away what happens, how technology is structured. And that's where my hesitation came from. Yeah.
Absolutely. Makes a lot of sense. Now it's the question that we ask every single guest. It's the last question, and it's to you. What is a smart city?
To me, a smart city is where citizens get to profit from their own data, where they are sovereign in their own data, where it is transparent how their data is being handled. So a smart city starts with natural intelligence of people.
I really like that. I don't think I've ever had anyone say that. Now we're coming up to 100 episodes of our normal series, but we've now interviewed so many more people than that with the same question. And I don't think I've ever heard it said before that the people get to profit from their own data.
Yeah.
I really, really like that point. So thank you very much.
Welcome.
And thank you so much for coming on. I really enjoyed getting to know more about your approach and the way you think and all the interesting initiatives that you're a part of. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
I'm looking forward to joining forces. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to talk more. So, And to all of our listeners, I also have to thank you, of course, for listening. And don't forget, you can always create a free account on babel-smartcities.eu. You can find out more about smart city projects, solutions, and other implementations. So thank you very much.
Thank you all for listening. I'll see you at the next stop on the journey to a better urban life.